Oh, yeah, no, do that. No, I got it. Don't worry, don't you know, if you're kind of I don't think you know, the shit there, it'd be pretty scary. I can't. It will. How would it go with our
yeah, Brad talked to him, why he was so upset is, the guy that killed his mom just got out of prison. And saw him down there on the corner yesterday, and that's why he was that frustrated. And he was sitting down there in the corner hoping that he could come back through. So. You all ready to go over there?
Yeah, we're ready to get it going.
Bowling. Hello. Roland, Chief Jenkins would like to start. Yes, sir, Mr. Mayor. Thank you for having me, council. Thank you for having me this evening to update everyone on some of the activities of the police department last month. You can tell a few of the significant calls that we had documented was we responded to a hit and run accident down here on Valley Main Street, and one of the drivers fled the scene. We were able to use the cameras around the police department, the lock cameras to obtain the license plate, and was able to identify the driver and get her charged. 300 Page Street, we had a structure fire. And while we were on location, we determined that the downstairs apartment was on fire. Someone had left a pot on the stove, caught fire. I guess the most disturbing thing about the fire is that fire alarm in that building does not sound in the Boys and Girls Club's building. So that so happened is Jelani heard the fire alarm, not see what was going on, and was able to get those in the Boys and Girls Club. But we also learned that there were a number of residents at 300 Page Street, a lot of wheelchair bound and bedridden folks in that building. One of the females was in bed, couldn't get out. The occupants had stuff stacked up in the around her bed, behind the door. Hard to get her out of that bedroom and that living quarters. Anyway, I talked with the fire department and hopefully Jelani will be able to get the county and maybe put some kind of a fire alarm over on that side of their building so the Boys and Girls Club can be alerted if there's a fire in that building. But that was pretty I don't know, disturbing to know that they didn't have a clue what was going on. We also identified 7 individuals who had been trespassing on ATVs and pickup trucks on the property over at Glenham Road. After some conversations with the juveniles, the parents were called and we learned that ATVs that we had that day were the ATVs that were traveling over into Van Cleef as well, trespassing and driving. Every so often we get those calls about 4-wheelers being in Van Cleef. Well, that was the kids. So their parents have been notified. They've all been trespassed from both property at Glenham and over at Van Cleef for the 4-wheeler. One of our officers conducted a traffic stop on an individual that was wanted on several outstanding warrants. You can see a meth pipe was discovered in plain view on the driver's front seat. search of the vehicle, we revealed about 3/4 of a pound of methamphetamine in the vehicle. Community engagements, we have attended the preschool transportation days.
Excuse me for 1 second. What trouble do we have in this part of the county with methamphetamine? With that, I can't say, right?
Methamphetamine,
There we go.
there's a lot of it coming through here. A lot of it. That's the second stop that we've made. And there've been others, but that was the second stop. If you remember back, maybe 3-4 months ago, we got a half pound of meth out of a stop. And then this one was 3/4 of a pound. We're working with some of our narcotics partners with the state police and the other local police departments, and trying to get some more things done down here to help curb some of the narcotics traffic coming around the town.
Do we know, I guess, more the channel, so to speak, of where it's coming from?
Oh, we know,
Okay.
just a matter of getting the right things in place. Yeah, we're slowly getting them, but you take one off the street, and they're probably 2 or 3 behind them just to take the place. But we're working with some of our, like I said, federal agencies and the task force to try to do a little bit more.
Is meth the biggest issue you deal with?
Meth, we've got fentanyl,
Fentanyl?
some heroin.
Okay.
Marijuana, of course.
Yeah.
Those seem to be the biggest right now that we're seeing them or coming through the town, right? Let's see, our auxiliary officers donated 18.5 hours of their time this past month. You can see the total savings to the town. Department news, we just completed our first aid CPR AED training here at Victory Hall last month. One of our APOs did all that training for us. Now the next phase, we're working with Melody and Javier to get town staff their training. We assisted one of our business owners here with an employee that had a propensity for violence. They just wanted us to do credit, just as for prevention purposes. We had our first stakeholders meeting for the July 4th events. We held that meeting Tuesday in fall. All of our flock safety cameras have been installed. 2 investigations thus far since they've all gone in, hit and run crash, and wanted subject on 2 warrants where that 3/4 of the town of meth was discovered. There was no P card purchases out of them. I don't think we've gotten those yet, Javi, but I know council wanted that reported out on each month. We have the monthly reports, monthly stats, as everyone can see. The calls for service, we're still handling just over 95% of the calls for service in the town. And this audit here, the next sheet back is the flock camera audit that I do once a month, just to make sure that our officers are going into the system, utilizing the system the way it's intended to be used by policy and procedure. Okay. The only other thing I wanted to discuss, number one, is there's an equipment grant that's available through the BCJS, 25% match. And it's just a matter of us applying for it if we're interested in it. I was thinking if we wanted to apply for the grant, maybe we could get one of our police computers for officers. Those computers are about $5,400. Cost the town the 25% match would be right around $1,500, and it's like I said, $5,400 computer. And we need one of those. And was also recommended that maybe we look at purchasing 3 to 4 new AEDs to put in the police cars of the officers. Doing some research on those that are anywhere between $1,500 and $1,800 a piece. 25% match will be anywhere from $1,500 to $1,800. So you're looking, and we will be talking about $3,3300 at the end of the day, if we were to do the solicitation for the grant. Didn't know how council felt about applying for another equipment grant. I will submit the final report on this last equipment grant that we got our message board and phone trailer and phones off of. At the end of this month, that grant will be finished. So the council would like me to apply for this next equipment grant, and be glad to do so. Just need your all's blessing to be able to. 25%. Yes, sir. Just, it would be another computer for the officers, which is right around 54, unless they've gone up there, but we're talking 25% natural net, 1,500-ish. 3 or 4 AEDs, $1,500 a piece. 4 of them would be $1,500. If that sale price goes off and the regular price, probably looking at $1,800 a piece. So we're looking at $3,000 match to a $3,300 match for the town.
There's a multiple.
Chief, would they be, the cost part, would that be in your budget or not in your budget?
Well, we have a plan. This grant just come out 3 days ago, 4 days ago, maybe. You never know when that's gonna come out, but what you can purchase off of them, what you can't purchase off of them. This is gonna be a 6-month only grant. So what they're telling, from what reading the grant, those agencies that make the purchases before September, something, I think it's mid-September, we'll begin the priority for the funding of the month. So it's a 6-month grant, and it usually starts June, end of June, 1st of July, and goes 6 months.
Let's get you and Javier get your heads together and then he can present something next week.
Okay.
The
Sounds good.
AED that we bought for here, would it be sufficient for your cars?
Oh, yeah.
Because I can get them to give us a $300 grant, they call it a grant, but it's a discount on each one. On top of, say it's a $1,500, because ours was $1,500, and then we took the $300 off and it came down to $1,200. So if,
But you're working on another grant, how would we pay for that? What would be the amount of that?
yeah,
Thinking about.
and maybe if we order in bulk for your 4 of them or whatever, we can get a better discount on it.
So. Anyway, we would still need. you
We
guys
still
to
need
approve the grant.
yeah,
But anyway, maybe we can get them at a cheaper price.
Yeah.
Okay.
See if we can get it on the agenda for next week, so you can get happy on it.
All right. You good with that?
Yeah, that works for me.
The other thing I wanted to bring to council's attention was the discussion on officer salary increase moving forward. So as you all know, Officer Tracy leaves us June 6th. Started doing a little bit of research. In fact, Javier and I started to post the job description out on Indeed, and we've already found that our starting salary is behind significantly already. With that being said, was trying to think of some ways to be able to offset a salary increase for officers. And if council will remember, back last year, our officers go up to the CTAC and work twice a month. At the end of the day, at the end of the year, that work brings in $13,200 to the police department's budget. And what I did last year was Javier and I put it in a line item used only for contractual overtime for the officers. That way it would offset. If they worked overtime for a special event, they could get paid through this line item. But what I was thinking is it would be a good use of the funding to be able to take that funding out of the contractual and move it over to officers' salaries. So at $13,200 for the year, it would be a $6,600 pay increase for the officers' salaries. And then we were talking about, we had put in this year's budget, and I know we spoke a lot about it last year, at a minimum of 2 to 3% increase every year moving forward. I think Javier and I put in this year's proposed budget of a 5% increase. Because we learned last year that after council had given raises, insurance had increased by 10%. Which in turn, the officers go home $19 extra in their paycheck. We've learned this year moving forward that insurance is going up 18%. Which is not gonna be. If we do a 5% Javier, and we do the 3%, it would be $9 more in their paycheck each month bringing home. After we offset the insurance.
You pretty much need it. I can't be
I
quiet.
thought it was $9 extra at 3%. The officers would bring home $9 more in their paycheck each month after the offset of insurance. So. With the $6,600, so right now, Petrowski's at 51.5. With the offset of the $6,600, and I'd split that with both officers, 50-50. $6,600 for each one of them. It would bring our most senior officer up over the $5,800 mark, and it would bring the new person that would come on and fill that role to $58,100. At a 5% increase, it would take that salary up to right at $6,300 a year. At a 3% increase, it would take it up to $59,843. That's what it would be. So what I'm asking council today is, so I can go ahead and advertise this position. I'd like to be able to advertise the starting salary of this new officer at $58,100. That's what I'd like to do. I learned as soon as we upped our salary last year, one of the other smaller agencies kept in contact with me, and as soon as we upped theirs, they went 58. So we're just constantly staying behind. So that's kind of where I'm at in trying to recruit a certified officer like council would like to have on instead of having to send someone to the academy. I think to be competitive, and I hate to sound repetitive, but to be competitive, we have to keep adjusting these salaries to stay competitive, or we're just not going to get the quality of officers that we're looking for.
Chief, one of the realities, and correct me if I'm wrong, in this time, there's a scarcity of officers. I mean, it's a position that there's many needs in a lot of places, and simple economics means it costs more than, so I do think the value of you increasing what you're gonna pay them makes sense. We've had to do it before, and I think it's a wise use of, to me, that's a wise use of resources.
Yeah, since we don't make decisions at this meeting, everybody think about it. Come with any questions that you have next Monday. And then in the meantime, you Bobby Eric and hammer out a little bit more government direction more than that. I think we'll see if we can make a decision on it next week.
On Monday. Okay. So I'll wait to advertise this position until next Monday then.
Yeah.
All right, sounds good. And Mr. Mayor, that's all I have.
Any questions for the chief?
Any news on the truck?
I haven't been pushing that truck.
Because
we haven't heard-
That's a good idea.
We haven't secured that $75,000 yet.
My second question, is there any news on that money? What you know?
I haven't heard, I talked to lawyer, last Thursday. And we've got a, what I hope is gonna be not a final meeting, next final meeting. Not the results.
And as far as the number, if that works out, would there be any surplus on that $75,000? Right for the line.
When we first proposed it, we had surplus for everything. They thought we would achieve. It's gonna be more than what we asked for a little bit more in the beginning. We will be glad on top of 75,000 with everything. So while we're talking about that, the board of directors will be rest of the board also considering improvement. Ball field. They do a lot of work with good operations and really she probably is. And, take about equipment for the physical challenge that can be used by all kids. We have them come down last Thursday. And that's what his company does, install playgrounds like that. They've done one time on champion. Canada was also at this meeting. So I think that's gonna move along pretty fast. So we'll have some final moves.
We have questions? Mr. Walker, you got the floor.
Yeah, sure. So, spring hunts, and we're moving forward with, a lot of events coming to town. We, met with, Ben and Jacqueline from, Mr. D's Barbecue. And they're, spearheading the, Fridays on the canal, right out here, is that what we said?
On the canal, yeah.
Fridays on the canal, be once a month. I think they've been in touch with you, Greg, already about security. We're going through with all the details right now. We had our first events committee meeting today. I believe they are officially on the town events committee. Is that correct?
Yes. That meeting we had today at 4.
Gotcha. So we attended that, got that going. Looks like the first one's going to be May 23rd, Friday, May 23rd. Right before Memorial Day weekend, so it ought to be a good time. We're gonna have a great occurrence throughout the summer month, so starting this year with once a month, and there's a vision it happening more regularly next year, so we'll see how this year goes, but the two of them put together a really comprehensive plan. We're thinking through a lot of the details ahead of time, and a lot of sponsorships already coming in to support them, and it seems like it's gonna be a good go, so looking forward to partnering with Tim and Scan to make this a reality. And we're still exploring the idea of a wine festival in October. More recent events coming up, we have a ribbon cutting for Scan, which I'm sure will get brought up pretty soon here on March 20th. And then Hardware Hills, for those of you that may have been to Stitzelgate or haven't been there since Hardware Hills. Same spot, but they've added on a really nice new space, and they're doing ribbon cutting for their new space. I believe that's April 5th. Other than that, just ready for spring and things moving on. I miss anything?
So about the tree work.
Yeah. Yeah. We're definitely getting ready to do a little spring cleaning out there today, so.
All right, that's good. Any questions for Jim?
James, does the chamber want to come to National Night Out over here with us this year too?
Yeah, the same as you did last year.
August 5th,
Okay.
okay?
We'll put it on the calendar, August 5th, and yeah, I believe Kathy was at the other meeting that you mentioned already, and it seems like that's a lot more robust planning than last year, so.
Okay, thank you so much.
All right.
All right. Ms. Clark, you got anything for us?
I do. To follow on what James was saying, we have our art gallery opening March 20th and the ribbon cutting. From there on, we will be opening, we open at noon on that Thursday, and our hours are Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. They vary a little bit, either 10 to 2 or 10 to 4 on Saturday, something like that. We plan to be open one Friday night per month, and we're gonna start piggybacking with the concert on 4th Friday in May, so we will be open 4 Fridays. So about 7, we'll just overlap a little bit. That's where we're at the gallery. Also, that same week on a Saturday, our land folks on the board have organized a litter cleanup. And it will be combined with the art gallery. They're being very creative. You have your trash bag with your litter, and then you have a little white bag that in case you find a treasure, you put that in there. It could be a quarter, it could be a bowl, who knows, and then you take it over to the gallery, and some local artists will help you make an art piece with your trash. It's trash, the treasure. And we're getting going with all that from the art gallery, and stay tuned. We have about 13 artists who've already submitted their work.
We show in the gallery, it's gonna be full. We're very excited, you know, we started, like I said, I'm gonna come to the party. We're coming out in force. And lastly, Victory Hall, we had the first concert of the year last Friday. It was a sellout. It was a lot of fun. It was really nice to see all ages there. I think, well, I know scouts, there were quite a few younger, but mostly 40, 30, 40, 50, something like that. Yeah. It was a good time. So we have our land, the park, and trails of the land, the art gallery, and the theater, scan cover. Your arts and culture. Yes.
Display art.
Yes, as long as we can. Yeah, it feels goes into storefronts. And a lot better here. We do still plan to do that.
Any other questions for Stan? Thank you so much.
Thank you.
You not see on the way, you have a thing on farmer's market?
She's online.
Oh, let's see, okay, put her, give her the light.
Alright. Yeah, Emily,
Hi everyone, how are you?
can you turn up the volume a little bit closer to the mic?
Am I on?
You hear, okay.
Okay, sorry. Hi everyone.
Hello.
I just wanted to give town council an update for the farmers market. We have a lot of really exciting things going on that I'm personally very excited for, and I've heard a few other people say they're excited, so I hope that you all will be able to make it this year. It's on April 12th on a Saturday. But the first update I'd like to make is that we have 21 applicants who have been accepted so far, and a few more have applied. I have updated the application process as well to where it starts with a person expressing interest in being an applicant as a vendor. They will receive a request form and they'll give details about themselves and their business and the products they're selling. If they get accepted as a vendor based on that process, they will then receive a contract, an updated version of the rules and regulations, and a fee schedule, which I've also updated to be more clear and improved upon. So once that happens and they've been approved by the market manager, they can become a vendor this year. So that's one update. Another one is my mother, who has written grants before, and I recently applied for the 2025 Bama Works grant to make improvements upon the pavilion area and to also add some beautification to it as well to attract more people to the market so that they can see all of the wonderful things that we have going on and the amazing fresh and nutritional products we'll be providing with the foods. And I received an email from one person from the Charlottesville Area Community Foundation who works for the Bama grant, and they will be conducting a site visit within the next 30 days where we can show them what the pavilion looks like, how we plan to improve it, and why that is important. My third update is in the spirit of improvement, I've hired a band to perform for opening day, so that's very exciting. And my mother will also be running a kids activity booth for that day. So if any of you have kids, grandkids, nieces, nephews, please invite them that day. There's going to be a lot of really fun activities for them that I've been told about, and I think they're going to be just great. And I've also appointed my mother as events coordinator to help find ways to augment the market and bring in more customers. I would also like have a band at the farmers market once a month. I'd like to make this a monthly experience. So if there's anyone on town council who knows of a band or an individual who would be interested in working with the farmers market, I would really appreciate suggestions and contact information. I will also this week contact potential EMTs and food trucks to collaborate for a safer and also more interesting farmers market to bring more people in. My fourth update is I will also start advertising for the farmers market through social media and flyers throughout the month of March. I've made some recent postings on social media and throughout town, but I want a more substantial social media presence and draw more attention. So I was wondering if Mr. Gritzko, if you would be interested in helping me make videos that are about the vendors' videos and posting them to YouTube like we did last year for the Scottsville Literary Festival. I think that would be really great to have people know the vendors more, know what they're selling, know about their business, and attract more people in.
I'd be happy to help. You and I can chat.
Perfect, thank you. And my final update for you all is I just wanted to report that I've been taking a course from the Virginia Farmers Market Association. And I have received a lot of really helpful information and resources from them. So I would highly recommend that any future farmers market managers you might have take this course because it is very helpful and they cover all of the bases for what a farmers market manager needs, and you will receive a certificate at the end.
Questions for the market manager? Here, I do have a question, and a comment. Before, I don't know if anybody else on council has been approached yet about this or not, but I had a farmer's regular vendor who's been there for the last several years approach me today and say, what is this with the, registration fee that's being charged this year, something new? How does that work?
So the registration fee is something, it's only $20 and it's just a confirmation that you are committed to being a vendor this year. And it provides, I don't want to say security, but it lets me know that you are committed and that this is a fee that guarantees that you want to be a vendor this year and that you will be.
I sort of figured that was the way it was gonna work, and that's how I explained it to this lady today. The other thing is, when you're placing the vendors in their slots, there's a lot of vendors that have been there for a long time, and they want the same slot they've had every year, so kind of keep that in mind if you haven't already, and be careful how you switch people around. We will hear about it, okay? Well, we appreciate all you do, and we're looking forward to a good farmers market season. Mr. Hudson had a question.
I'm just curious, if you start April 12th, what's the last day you go this year? Until when?
So I saw online that it usually goes to mid-November, so I put November 8th as the last day because that's the second week in November. So I just divided by 2 and said November 8th. And that is not including, that might not be including if may or may not be including if chamber will have us for holiday happenings.
When you talk, when you're during an interview, you talk about maybe, or we talked about a little bit, doing something during the week occasionally. Is there any, like a Thursday or Wednesday, is there anything on that at all? It's just gonna be Saturday.
I'm sorry, can someone repeat that? It's just the microphone is a little
He was, Counselor Heisen was basically asking, will there be a market on another day of the week, as has been discussed, that's considering in the past, besides an additional day?
I mean, I'm not ruling out any possibilities. I'd like to try some new things for the Saturday markets to see if that will draw more people in, new advertising techniques, new activities that will be there. And I would like to try that first before moving it to a new date because a lot of people know that markets are on Saturdays.
I'm gonna just to clarify, he was actually not saying not do it on Saturday, he was actually saying an additional day, but he.
Oh, I apologize. Like
Oh,
I
no
said,
worries.
the microphone was just a little jarbled there for a sec. Yeah, I mean, like I said, I haven't ruled out any possibilities. I can definitely think about it and see.
Thank you, appreciate your time and all you do it.
Thank you so much.
ARB,
Business as usual, we approved a couple of signs and I believe a door. Being changed to a different color on the new seafood market. And we're gonna start jumping into inventory here next month too.
not gonna wait one please.
Yeah.
Any questions for ARB? Let's go.
Mr. Mayor, most notable thing, sadly, we are losing our chair. She's moving and she's done a great job in running the planning commission and very, very sorry to see her go, but we're thankful for what she's done. That means we also have an opening on the planning commission, so anybody out there that's interested, please contact the town. And what's the time line on that?
Our statement had a deadline of the 6th, so 4 days ago.
Oh, so we're going to extend it.
Yeah, I think my assumption is council would want to extend since we haven't received any applicants.
Okay, so if you haven't heard that, then we are looking for applicants. As we don't have any applicants yet, and the planning commission does serve a very helpful function for the town. And it would be, if you're interested in learning more about it, please let us know. We continued in the work of working on the comprehensive plan. We actually have a planning commissioner that's here who took a big part in that. Is there anything you want? Is it okay to have her say something that you like?
I'm not on the agenda.
Okay. So that said, we worked a lot on the plan and it is nearing completion. There's also a hope to get it finished as soon as possible. I know there's been communication back and forth between the council and the planning commission and both satisfaction and dissatisfaction, both directions. And at the moment, just council, please know that the planning commission is working diligently to finish and do the work thoroughly, and they've done a really good job. I think you'll be proud of the efforts of what the planning commission does. I think it's a town who will also be proud and encouraged as it's done. And then as it comes to us, there'll be ample time for us to review it and to talk about it. Mr. Mayor.
Okay, any questions for planning commission? Government services?
Well, I sent minutes, so basically the budget did not include the plan and maintenance issue for we probably will continue to have a meeting for a while.
You want to just go on into parks while you're doing?
Yeah, well, the parks didn't meet this month and it probably won't be. So we have some, one of the things we have proposed or work with is the Canal Basin Square, and I guess that's the main thing is we can't do much that is not going. Bids and work we did on that, but we did a lot of work on what needs to be done at Canal Basin Square.
All right. Any questions for either parks or from the students? So will there be any other updates on emergency preparedness?
I think we gave that to Mr. Townsend.
Mr. Townsend have that, and you're doing events?
Yes.
Okay. Well, anything on that?
Nothing from me, but we've certainly heard a lot from the other
All right.
participants tonight about upcoming events. I'm excited about it. Looking forward to it.
Thank you. Very good.
So I'll just hit my highlights on my report. So I recently continue to work on budget projections, so I've got some input from Counselor Whitley. I'll follow up on a few items with some productive conversation. Beyond that, I spoke as Bill, you'll see in Counselor Heisen's minutes from Government Services or STOTS, actually will be the correct one. We're working on trying to finalize the CIP One thing, I'll meet up with the chair of government services and Tim Carr. To include some, I think we have a gap with capital needs for the levy. I think we captured everything else except for that, but I'd like to share that with council. Beyond that, Tim, after we had a meeting, stakeholder meeting, revolving around 4th of July. Tim spoke with VDM staff members and they suggested we follow up with DCR. They seem to be the most applicable for grant and loan options after researching various state agencies. So Tim Carr's doing me a big assistance with reaching out to DCR. And then of course, we received from our Army Corps of Engineers another firm that we could get a second quote for the project. So he's working on that for us also, but I hope once we have information on that, I can share it with council. Beyond that, I have an update on the last bullet point. Miscommunication on staff, but useful for the board as they consider next year's budget. We've maxed out our business licenses. That's why it's never been a topic similar to cigarette licenses or cigarette stamps. In regards to possible, tax levers we could use in the future. So beyond that, Melody's working on a financial statement for January. And then I've sent the representation letter, and then our town attorney Jim Bowling assisted us with an attorney letter to our auditors. So I should be in the next week getting our audit, and then I'll schedule a meeting with our auditors to present to town council. So we'll stay on track with good financial practices from that perspective.
Any questions for the treasurer? See Mr. Pruitt in the audience, perhaps he would like to take a few moments to tell us what's going on with all these, we've been hit hard with stuff.
I only come here for bad news, right? Would you like me to speak from the podium?
Yes, sir, if you don't mind.
So, I apologize for being a few minutes late, as I shared with Javier and the mayor. I did come directly from a budget work session. We're gonna have a few of those, and in fact, I'm gonna, if you don't mind, start by just highlighting a few dates for council to keep on their mind and for the public who are listening. So we're in the first of what's gonna probably be 3 work sessions. Then on the 19th of this month, I like to highlight this because it's an understated date, but it's actually deeply important. That is when we have our that is when currently we're in a posture where the county executive has proposed his budget. Then we propose our budget, which is mostly a reflection of the same thing. Or whatever gets adopted. When we propose it on the 19th, that is also when we advertise our tax rate. Meaning that is the point at which we set a max that we will be willing to increase or have the tax rate settle. This is probably not as relevant for this crowd, but when I'm speaking to the urban ring, they're actually often requesting higher taxes, which I know sounds quite alien, but there's a really strong demand for services in parts of the county. And so that is especially important for some of those folks because they are pushing quite hard for higher taxes.
Is it possible to pay them? Have them pay higher taxes?
It is actually unconstitutional in Virginia. In that we have very specific provisions on how we're allowed to tax.
I would hate to deny them their request.
I hear you. I mentioned that in part in a self-serving way, because I want to make clear to council and the folks that I'm in this council that we are beholden to some surprisingly complexity of this levels. There are very strong demands for service from the urban. I want to just highlight there are going to be 3 town halls in the overall Scottsville magisterial district, only one that's close to the town of Scottsville. As usual, that's going to be on the 20th of this month. There is going to be a town hall at Monticello High School. 24th is another one at Centera. That's actually in Scottsville district, which is crazy. My district, that's fine. And finally, the important one, 27th at Yankee Community Center. That's going to be the one to the south side. Additionally, we're going to have a few more work sessions, a few more town halls. The board will have public hearings on the 23rd and 30th. That will be
be the opportunity for the public to come holler at us. We had 30 folks show up to the public hearing in which we announced it. And I will again share with the council that most of those people were requesting higher taxes. Not by name, most of them were requesting increased allocations to the housing trust fund, which would almost certainly necessitate higher taxes. Without zeroing out some other significant funds. Finally, we're going to approve, we're going to vote to approve the budget on the 7th of May. So those are your key dates. As I'm sure y'all are already aware, we had both an assessment increase as we had for many years running. In the town of Scottsville, that was just over 7%. In the county as a whole, that was just over 6%. I want to flag very quickly, I think there's a helpful kind of data story to pull out what we've seen from assessments, which is what we're seeing is that increase is being commanded almost entirely by the single family detached housing market. Single family detached homes are continuing to increase, and especially single family detached homes that are closer into the city are increasing really significantly. What we are actually starting to see decrease, which is striking, this decreases in assessments, it's pretty alien now in all county. But we're starting to see multifamilies and attached single families decrease. Multifamilies decreasing pretty significantly, and attached single family just a little bit. I bring this up because something you'll hear from me, something you'll hear from other politicians in Alamo County, is that we do see a fundamental supply and demand problem in housing in the county at large. There is a belief that by amending or by adjusting our supply, by trying to actually develop more housing in the urban core, that we will be able to actually hopefully correct for some market concerns we're seeing that are driving this. I think we're hitting an inflection point there with the types of housing that we're building in the urban core, which is primarily going to be fairly dense multifamily and less frequently row home style homes. Since that's the kind of homes that we're building, those are the places that we're seeing assessments starting to drop. There's going to be, I think, a complicated question about whether or not that's the only style of growth we keep embracing as a county, or whether or not we're trying to explore ways to actually build out our single family home inventory.
Just a question for you too.
Yes.
Rather. So if I hear what you're saying correctly, you're saying there's a pretty strong demand for more housing.
Yes.
I mean, and you would say that's pretty representative throughout the county. I mean, we heard that a couple of years ago that there was a high demand for housing. Would you say it's more in the urban area or just everywhere?
It is everywhere. I would say the market is slacks in the southern part of it. And this, you can go on Reddit right now. There's folks talking about where you can buy land in the county still that's actually developable for under $1 million. The only location is the greater Scottsville area. You can still accomplish that, and it's quite challenging here too. So there's a high demand generally. The southern end of the county has slightly lower demand, but it is still quite robust. And houses are not on market.
And one of the reasons, Supervisor, I was just clarifying that is we've known that for a long time, and I think it's helpful for us as a town to keep that in mind, that the needs are pretty big. Do you see in the county, let me ask you this, do we see from data that show, is the movement into the county then, or how do we see in terms of housing being filled?
I want to make sure, so we know year over year we get about 2% growth in the county. And that is necessarily meaning people are coming into the county. There's also people going out, but it's net 2% of people who are coming into the county every single year. That creates an additional obligation. I think our AC 44 plan estimates 30,000 new Albemarleans over the next 20 years. They have to live somewhere, right? We do not have the existing housing inventory to accommodate that.
Thank you.
I do want to get back on track though. This was a note about kind of how assessments are being influenced and how hopefully, I mean, the grand goal, my grand goal, would be that the increase in supply that we're seeing in the urban area will slowly trickle out and actually make it so that assessments stop declining off the like maybe even reverse, which will, I'm sure, make people mad at me for a whole nother reason, which because that means their home prices are going down. But that's what you get elected. You get elected for people being mad at you. The budget is calls for a 4% in addition to the assessment. sorry, not 4%, a 4-cent real property tax increase. It additionally continues to reset, I should say, being diplomatic. It resets the personal property tax rate to where it was prior to the pandemic. We decided last year to raise that, kind of ratchet it up back in 2 increments. We phased it up halfway last year, which is how we met some of the needs we had that year, which mainly went to applying for a grant out in North Garden, where they had a shortfall of firefighters. And we're ratcheting up the rest of the way to where it was pre-pandemic this year. Those are the 2 main differences. Last year, we also raised our transient occupancy tax. We're not really in a place to do that because that kind of has to move in lockstep with Charlottesville for competition reasons. And Charlottesville has a surplus this year, so they are not taxing people any more than they have to. I mentioned that Charlottesville has a surplus, and I want to be very clear. We came into this budget with a hard obligation deficit, meaning without firing people, there was not going to be a way that we did not increase taxes. I'm not saying that to excuse myself, but the primary driver of this year's budget is the increase in fire staffing over the past really 5 years. Since 2021, we've hired 97 professional fire staff. About half of those were hired outright, but the other half, the remaining 57 fire and rescue staff, were hired using federal safer grants. You've heard both myself and my predecessor come and say how very excited we were to win those grants. They were tremendously helpful. They helped pay for the first year of those firefighters' salary and their training, and then feather out over the course of 3 years. They are feathering it over the course of 3 years. That means the overwhelming driver of this budget increase, 3.2 cents out of the 4 cents, is going to be going to fire and rescue salaries and an additional 6 sworn police officers. Half of those 6 sworn police officers are going to cover San Diego and Scottsville. The other half is going to be in the northwestern area, mainly because, frankly, folks are being pulled off patrols in those 2 larger rural areas because of increased calls for service in the urban. That is the crux of it. I would say, if you're curious, right, we're doing a dedicated tax increase that's going to go directly to the base with this 4 cents, meaning it's not going through the split with the schools that you might be more familiar with. This is only for the initial contribution to the base, but so 3.2 of those cents are going exclusively entirely to public safety, fire and police. 0.4 of that is going to the school's operating budgets, because we have to give them children. We would normally be giving them almost 2/3 of this, so this is a significant decrease of the new tax revenue that they'll get. But they're still getting the increase in assessment for this additional component. And the last bit is 0.4 of those cents are going to become a dedicated and ongoing stream of funds for the housing adjustment, which is used to kind of buy down the gap between market rates and an affordable rate, mostly for higher density developments in the urban. But I had a great example that I always mention. That is how Scottsville School Apartments is the same. And I'm sure that there are questions. And I have a whole presentation.
Well, when we see an increase of the amount of money that Elmore will go to Scottsville after this increase in property tax, will that go up to us too? We see that percentage. Some of that.
Help me understand, like, are you asking for very specific services that would be?
Well, services or just sometimes there's money that's given from Elmore to Scottsville, and we'd like to try to get more people Elmore, obviously, but.
I don't have to know the specific like budget line that you're curious about, and if so, I can log for it.
Okay,
Right.
well, one of those, the big ones would be the levy, those kind of things, the levies, the pump house and stuff like that, but also maybe we could get some for the police as well.
Police, emergency services.
Yeah.
And I'll pipe in there, one of the things is, we've contacted staff about very recently, is getting some help with the levy. Which has been obviously very important to the town. If you just look outside, the sign has been awarded previously reached in the town, but you should take a look at the chief's information statistics he has on how much we're actually helping with the county police department in responding to services. Now, correspondingly, you help us a lot too, but those figures are interesting, and he has them all documented. It's how much help you're actually getting in the southern part of the county. It's a huge help. We're few in numbers, but we're much closer to where you've got to go than when you start out in the urban area of the county. So that's important in considering what the town is doing for the county. I didn't even point it, I'm going to point that out because I know this request on the levy is coming to you.
We have a history of mutual collaboration with the county. Maybe about 12 years ago, there was the county provides a stipend that's indexed year over year. At this point, it's about 21,000, which helps a brunt of our daily maintenance for the levy. So we have a history of collaborating on capital projects, especially in a historic town.
I mean, do you know if that's controlled by a specific contract that?
Yes,
So it would need to be reopened?
yes, I have a copy of it.
When I first went on council in 2010, the county was giving us 17,000 a year for the levy maintenance, and now it's 18 years later, 15 years later, and we're getting 21. That's not very, it's not a good increase, is it?
That is
Not a big increase.
I don't mean to make light of the concerns, I actually mean to frame this as a, that is, I think, a pretty small beans asked if I try and push for this during budget season. The only thing I would raise is that if it's coming pursuant to a contract, the county attorney's office is going to have to be involved, it's going to have to be reopened. I'm not sure I can negotiate it during budget season. But I can raise this as a major ask that's coming from council, that they want some additional funding support. I think that's very easy within our means, and I also would say, to put it in the context of the budget, acknowledging that I don't think I'm gonna be able to accomplish this budget because of just how it's arranged, but putting it in the context of the budget, something that we agreed on is how our total year over year funding mix, our revenue mix has looked for the past 20 years. And something that we as the county board were frustrated by is seeing that declining percentage of state revenue, which has more than happened over the last 20 years. I don't mean to say that state revenue has more than happened, but the percentage that they're devoting to us has more than happened. Point being, I think it's going to be very easy for the board to put themselves in town's shoes on this, just one level up, right? In the same way that it seems, in the same way that we feel the state does not continue to increase their obligations to us, I think it's very easy to make that case, that we do not continue to increase our obligations to y'all, vis-a-vis the levy. So I'm very happy to carry that.
And this is life and death stuff too. I mean, this is not, we wish we had this money.
Sure.
It's the town's existence.
It is, I think, not lost on anyone on the board, the role of levy. I mean, you might have members of the board who come down to Scottsville once every 5 years, but you ask them one thing about Scottsville, they'll say, oh, you know what I love? I love the markers on the wall after flood. That's some powerful stuff. And I'm like, well, yes. Well, then let me tell you, here's a way that they can help them. So I appreciate it. It is helpful to have a very specific actionable aspect.
Any more questions for Supervisor Pruitt?
Mike, still working on the budget. I was just curious, what is the amount of reparations all staying in Charlottesville this year? It's an annual,
It is significant. I want to say something.
around 17 million.
It is actually, I think, closer to 20 million this year.
20 million.
It's in here. I can fish it out for you if you want me to pipe up from my seat once I find it. I believe it's on the order of 20 million. We'd love to get out of it too. Don't get me wrong. I would much rather spend that 20 million on whatever anyone in this room has to say.
If you're not familiar with reparations, that's what Alamo pays Charlottesville, not the annexed Alamo. Been doing it since 1987.
I believe that's right. Same year that it became illegal to annex.
Yeah.
Anyone.
And well, they look at that every year, maybe, but
I will say to Charlottesville's ensuring credit, they prepare a list of exactly what they use our money for. And they try and frame it in ways that are mutually beneficial. So I don't want to vilify Charlottesville too much. That being said, I'm with you. I'd still much rather have that $20 million to help out. And if we could get out of it, we could. We actually thought out in court once, probably before I was born. Point being, it is something in contract that I cannot unilaterally back out of. And Charlottesville, per capita per citizen is poorer than Albemarle. It doesn't feel like that, right? They're a big city with a county, but that's the fact. It would be hard, I think, to make a political case in the public for it. It would be very easy to say, oh, the rich county with their horse ranches wants to take away money that we're putting toward inner city services. That would be very easy way to be cast. So I'm not sure I could even make a bold case to convince the city to agree to drop it.
And one other thing with you told us there was a 2% growth rate. And with the birth rate going down, we don't have people moving in. We've got some private schools around. I'm not sure about charter schools. We've got a dropout rate. Of course, or sometimes even a mortality rate if you find people a certain population. But having said all that, it just seems to be less kids being born and growing up. So why do we need 2 new schools?
So I would say, I appreciate the point you're making. We do still have a significant growing child population. Even with everything you're saying, folks are moving here when they have kids, right? The age that people tend to move here is when they're at their prime working life, right? Because we don't have any entry level jobs in the city. We have a lot of mid-tier and upper tier jobs, so people are coming here in their 30s and 40s with kids. You're not wrong. Crozet is growing much more rapidly than but we also in the south side have significant overcrowding, which is why the very first school got ground growth was which I'm never going to apologize for. About, I'm so deeply honored that I got to have one of those gold painted shells. I think we definitely needed that after we've seen what has happened in our schools with having folks learning in trade for the past decade. I don't know.
What I forgot homeschooling.
Sure.
Well, thanks, Mark.
Yeah, of course. If y'all have any other questions that you think of. Do it anyway. Thank you.
Okay, keep my report short, I too was at the planning commission, planning meeting for the 4th of July, and it was really well attended. I think there were 18 people here. A lot of good discussion that primarily focused on security for the event, keeping the visitors safe. So that's the direction we went for that hour or so. I spoke with Dan Curran, who publishes the Scottsville Directory, and this year he's bringing it out in the paper. He did Buckingham first, now he's working on Scottsville Directory. So, Chamber, as far as that process, we are advertisements for businesses in that booklet. So hopefully, now that will work. I went to the chamber board meeting and Mr. Walker told basically what we did there. Met with Ms. Clark, Javier and I on a couple of things related to scan, the new gallery, and we need to start thinking about talking about their lease, like we did last year. This is plenty of time. See what, if any, changes we want to propose for that lease. We had the groundbreaking, of course, for the West Village project, and they're going hot and heavy up there, moving dirt. We had some nice spots on CBS and on 29. So get some publicity for the town. And Nealon Farm is the indoor place behind the Jewish Bank, and they've got a whole schedule of events this summer, farm related, food related, and music related, so I'll post this thing up on the bulletin board somewhere, so you might see it. I went over there Saturday afternoon, there was, fairly well attended, and, some of the events are free and some have a little charge, you know, so. It's, another reason people come to town. That's basically all I had. Mr. Bowling, do you have anything for us?
I have actually had a couple of zoning matters that I helped Javier with this past, since I met with you last. And both of them are pretty interesting, and I think they'll get resolved. Javier put in there a little statement in his staff report. He mentioned that we might need to increase the fees for business license tax. I think I may have called that because I threw out that I found an interesting code section which allows you, states that a penalty for not having a business license tax. There's a minute first offense is $5,000, and second offense is $10,000. And thinking about that a little further, the fee is so high, the penalty is so high that it might as well not even be real because it's out of all proportion to the offense, if you will. So that's where that statement came from. Did you have a chance to talk about matter we were talking about earlier this last week, Mr. Mayor?
Haven't been able to catch up with it.
All right, well, I was going to talk about that, but I will talk about that if you got it.
He's elusive.
Okay. That's all I have.
Okay, any questions for Mr. Bowling? Good, Javier, you got anything else for us?
Yeah, so for the sake of brevity, I'll just hit, we already discussed the planning commission vacancy. I've submitted all material, including the payment agreement for the USDA. Provided dates, so we should this month be having a site visit, which allows the USDA to close out the grant. We'll begin our loan process and then we can get reimbursement. So I'll keep the town council updated on those financial subjects, and then we included a draft of minutes that our town clerk Melanie Court has been working diligently on. So we'll have a finalized version of those minutes for next council meeting. But beyond that, that's all I have to report, Mayor.
Any questions for Javier on anything? Well, I'm happy this evening to have Mr. Armstrong from Southern Development here, and we've agreed to come and talk with us and just kind of give us a little bit of a heads up on what some of their plans might be for East Village now that we've got West Village in.
Yeah, it's fair, and thanks for having me here tonight. Pleasure to meet you. Thanks for first cover West Village on Bird Street. We had a groundbreaking 2 weeks ago there, and a couple of councilors in attendance, so thank you for coming. Kick that off by going to Paulette Safe's Hardware and buy half their shovels.
Yeah.
It was really a fun event just to get there quickly. Next door neighbors came out and helped us break ground. That one, some of y'all remember we started talking about 4 years ago, almost to the day. So it's a long process, and some of you were asking, when is it happening? When is it happening? But after council approved it 3 years ago in a couple months, we went and did a lot of engineering, a lot of county approvals, state approvals. There's just a lot of process. So apologies for the delay. We got it to the starting line as quickly as we were able to, and really happy that that's going. I want to address a couple of things. I saw one news story on 1919. Mayor mentioned that talked about it's affordable housing. That's not what this is. I'm not saying it won't be affordable, but that has a certain connotation to it. That has a certain definition by our standards. It's not affordable to any particular income range or anything like that. It's going to be market rate housing. We don't yet have pricing on it. We're still working on our architecture. We'll work on it's set and the pricing for the homes, but it will be as affordable as we can make them at market rates, paying what it costs to build a house, build roads, build sewer lines, build water lines. all that stuff.
So that's an estimate of a range or similar homes like other places, you don't even have a estimate of like 300 to 500 or
No, I mean, not gonna be $1 million houses, and I can tell you, they're not gonna be $250,000 houses.
you don't know, no, so.
We don't have a range that I want to put out there right now. I could guess at it, but I think that's.
I was just curious about the houses itself, so they're 3 bedroom, 2 baths, they're already 3 bedroom, 2 baths? Or-
Well, I'm still finishing the architecture.
Oh, you haven't figured that out?
There'll definitely be some 3 bedrooms, there may be some 2
Oh,
bedrooms.
so they're gonna be different, each one's gonna be different.
Yeah, there'll be different options, right? It's not gonna be one type. There are actually 6 that are duplexes.
Right, that's all I know.
3 sets of 2, and the remainder are single family detached.
Okay. Because a lot of people have asked me, what are they, what's the cost, what's going on there? And I said, I have no idea what it is, and they asked me about affordable, I'm glad you clarified that,
Yeah.
but I'm just curious, so. If, when we'll know that, like, because some of these people are looking for houses, but they wanna know kind of like, what's the range? I guess.
It's gonna take us probably another 8 months to finish the roads.
Okay.
So somewhere in late summer, early fall, I hope we're setting prices, and so we wanna get it
Yeah.
fixed as quick as we can too, because that's when we can start selling. So sometime around late summer, early fall, I hope we are setting prices, sharing that with you all, and bringing them to a level.
The other key question people ask us goes way back is, and I don't even know if you know this, but is, what's the deal or what's the plan, or is there a plan with the plant? In other words, if somebody buys a house, they wanna know it's like, is that still gonna be a Scottsville industrial plant, or is that gonna be a factory, is that gonna be a whatever, so. Or could we get a understanding with the property over there about what they're gonna do? Can we bring them in, or, you know anything like that?
I know some things, I don't know anything certain.
Because that would give bearing if you're gonna buy a house, let them know what's next door.
Yeah, that's a good point. We still have a contract, we can buy it from Dr. Hurd at some point. However, he still has it full of his stuff.
I know.
Yeah.
We know.
That is a major impediment to anything happening there, I think both for us and for him.
Okay.
So if you see truckloads of stuff start coming out of
Okay,
it,
then we know.
maybe that's something can happen. I mean, a lot of truckloads.
Oh, I know. I did.
Yeah, it's an experience to go in that place. Yeah. So anyway, I think that's what's the, I'm always happy to answer questions if any of you or the public have any questions at all about it. If there's anything that's causing a nuisance or something like that, call us, y'all know where to get us. If you can call Chief, and he'll call me and I'll be scared to answer.
I see that every day, that's nuisance, and I've heard. But I'm glad if you're communicating with us, there's a lot of people doing what's going on. I was in the library the other day, and I couldn't answer this either, they were saying, what's going on outside? And it's blocked off, and they were digging, and they didn't even know what was going on. And I know they're doing something with sewers and water, but somehow to communicate with them what's going on. And I guess with the town too, is that ditch gonna go all the way down the road? They're digging a big hole from the library to Bird Street all the way down to the plant.
Yes.
Is that gonna continue down there? Is that gonna be? And the other question that somebody mentioned is, is this a VDOT project, or is this a project that's separate from that? Because somebody was saying like, it's dangerous there. They got library parking there, and they're not doing any flagging. And, like, we're doing something up on Main Street, and there's flags all the time. And so anyway, that's concerned, that whole road and the safety there.
Yeah, that's a water line that's being improved right now. The water line in the street there is an old asbestos cement pipe, not dangerous to drink water out of, but it's just an outdated material. And it's at the very, very end of its useful life. That it was on the county service authority's capital improvement plan to replace that line. But they were gonna wait till 2027 or 8, I'm not sure. We get the process going sooner than that, so we coordinated with them to take that portion off of their plan, although they are closely managing it. Along with us, it's the same contractor doing our site work on the So, I'll communicate to them about safety, they know all about the library, we're out there, but, they're making sure they keep farmland access open, they should be getting beyond the library.
Yeah.
I didn't go down there today, but,
Yeah, and they had a big vehicle there over the weekend, and somebody raised concerned about why it's a vehicle parked there. Can't be down the road, how do you get it? But now that they're putting a metal plate there.
yeah, that's what they're gonna do between days.
Anyway, it's just a, it's a well-traveled area and a well-used area, and it'd be good to have that, know what's going on.
Appreciate that. Little dust and noise, we can't help. Apologies in advance for all of that, but anything like that, please just call or ask Javier to shoot me an email or anything like that. We wanna know because we can't address the contractor if we don't. All right, so, that's West Village, what we're calling it now. We have the other side of town, 225 acres that we've also bought from Dr. Kurt. I think all of you all know that. And compared to what we're working on Bird Street, this is a very large piece of property. That's relatively small, being 12 acres that we're working on there. It has a residue on Bird Street, but the development part is 12 acres. 225 is pretty significant. I think everybody knows where it is, but I brought a few things to go on that pass it around. It's the yellow highlighted at the top, right, it goes all the way over at Dennis. And last year, when we purchased it, we wanted to know exactly what we could do there. Just for the towns and just some ordinances, so we had a subdivision plan go through, I think we're all aware of that too, but this is the final version of that, if you want to, thank you. So I wanted to start a conversation tonight with council, and then continue that conversation with a lot of others over the next months about what should happen there. The ordinance of the town allows essentially one thing. It allows this, the plan you're looking at, it's 73 subdivided lots. They vary in size from, a quarter acre up to 20 acres. But on average, that it's about 3 acres per lot. There's no open space in this subdivision. It's all in private property. You get the normal environmental protections that are required by DEQ in Alcoa County, but there's no over the top or extra in here. This is just what does the ordinance say today? We're not thinking creatively, we're just reading the black and white lines of paper. And so that's kind of the default scenario. If nothing else happens, this is what it's supposed to be. And we generally like to think a little bit more creatively about stuff. And so I have two other scenarios. I asked a landscape architecture firm to develop two things for me. One is a standard suburban subdivision plan, and one was a clustered subdivision plan. The standard suburban plan just kind of makes as many lots as possible and organizes it in a logical way. The clustered preserves open space, focuses on smaller lots, smaller homes, usually, and adds a little more creativity, I think, in design. Both of these that I'm going to show you now will require a council action. These cannot be done with the current ordinance. So if we want something different than the by right, these are just two options. The first one, and the green part is the cluster, and the second one is the more standard suburban. You see versions of these different layouts in different places. If you drive around, maybe you recognize, in other communities, this kind of thing. I want to be clear, I'm not proposing either one of these. This is the start of a conversation. This is meant as a kind of mental exercise of different things that could be done with property. Because I don't want to set any expectations of what we want. I want to receive a lot more feedback of what the town wants. I know what the default scenario is already. It's not my favorite, but it works. And these are two examples of options that, different themes of options that you could talk about. I'd love to get feedback from you all at some point along the way. If you have immediate reactions, I'm happy to hear them now or anytime. And then my next step would be to have some open meetings with various groups, whoever interested stakeholders are, of people in the town and people close to the town, not necessarily only formal Scottsville citizens, but there are other people who would be interested in this too, I think. And see what they think. And take that feedback and go back and draw something and bring it back to the planning commission and to you all. And then get a little bit more official about it. They're obviously, these are very different things. I will tell you some of the pros and cons I see from the first one I gave you, the black and white by right plan with 73 lots. The pros of that, some people might find that fewer homes is a pro. Other people might find that fewer homes is a con to that plan. I think the cons, some of the ones I see are that one doesn't have any citizen input. There's no ancillary benefits to the town. Like the First Street, and whenever a plan is reviewed by a planning commission and council, the developer can offer to do other things, build trails, divert what we're doing at First Street, improve utilities, infrastructure, things like that. So with the by right plan, there was none of that. There's no preserved open space. There's no consideration of land for parks or anything like that. No trails because it's all in private lots. And other than the stream buffers required by the county, there's no buffer on the waterways that are there. In the I'd say in both the other two that I gave you second, there are pros that don't come with the by right. There are potential negotiations. What's important? Now people say trails are important. We can consider that. We can look at where to put them. And in those places, there's obvious green spaces and open spaces that can be preserved. We're going to be wide buffers off of streams and the lake that's there. One thing I even thought of that maybe of interest is in the value conversation, place is very relevant. And we've got a big lake up there. It's not quite as big as Scottsville Lake, it's close. And we could potentially enlarge the amount of water that lake can contain, which means the floodgates are closed. We can pull water up there instead of now. There's things like that we want. I don't know all the things that the town wants, so I want to hear what the town wants and needs, and we can talk about what we can and can't do. We certainly can't do everything. So I think that's a lot to think about, and really all I wanted to present to you. And I'm happy to have any questions now or tomorrow or next week or next month.
Yeah, I definitely think the town, you guys can be proving or be interested in commercial space if there's gonna be an adjustment from the original plan. Just based on our ability to generate some funds. I think it would be wise to put them there. That would be my kind of desired adjustments from seeing here.
Can you do?
Yeah, we absolutely can. We've done several mixed use communities, in Alcohol and Charlottesville and elsewhere, so that's certainly an option. We would have to think about what kind of current space is most appropriate. I don't think that drive through with McDonald's is the right commercial thing that's there, but a daycare or doctor's office or something like that's the name. Is probably something that would be appropriate there.
You know, I was gonna say where the planned development I moved from, when I came here, it's 3,200 homes. And right there, sort of in the center is a nice little commercial area with a convenience store and a restaurant and doctor's office, a dentist's office. It's right there, and it's all designed to look like the houses, you know, it's right in it, something like that, might be something to think about.
One of the, I appreciate what you both have shared. I think it's wise for us to think about the connectivity. So when you go back to the first option here, one thing I can tell you, although I'm not active on the park project at the moment, one of the things we had hoped to do as with Van Cleef is to have connectivity through the town and to create green spaces that would allow people who had housing to have the opportunity to travel not on roads, to be able to do something like the Beltline in Atlanta, or have ways to travel. So I think first of all, from any research that I've done in the past, to me, this first option would not be a good idea for the town.
Which you're gonna have to identify what you're talking about.
So
This first off.
Okay, the one where we go where it's by right.
73 by right.
Yeah, so the by right option to me, and it's not just from all the research that we did for years in terms of understanding the park, it's clear from the community that we need connectivity. This would not do that. This would landlock some key spaces. And so what I'm suggesting as a community, as we dialogue, that means if we're going to work with Southern, we need to increase the density, real simply. So in other words, to achieve the opportunity to acquire some use for the town on public spaces, we are going to need to talk about a change in the density issue, I would say. And in that, we would need to talk about different designs that would be most suitable to the land. I favor designs more like this. I don't know what to call this, Mr. Boland, the pretty option.
No, you call it cluster option.
The cluster option, oh God, it just isn't pretty map. But the idea behind something like this, Charlie, I like this one in the sense that it gives a lot more open space. I don't know, I don't claim to know which one of these is better. I do know the connectivity issue is important. And the idea of having housing where it makes the difference between the human space and the environmental space is key, especially as we think about what should we do in the future. Alex, I'm very interested in what you have to say. Not that I'm not interested in what everybody has to say, but 30 to 40 years from now, you can come back and look at this thing. I'm not going to be here. And for your kids. And so when we think of the future, I think this is a really good time to be realistic of what it looks like. You know, what do we want? What's the number of houses we as a town? Certainly the by right is not going to be a good option. And I mean, again, you can do it, we can allow for it, but it would kill the connectivity of the town up there. This would make it not possible. So let me ask you this, Alex, when you say commercial, like, what do you envision in terms of commercial?
Honestly, I was on the same kind of thoughts that you were, a doctor's office, kindergarten or daycare, something that's not. Something that's required by the community that lives around it, but not dependent on through travel, you know, not through 20 people going another way over there.
Because the reason I say that is if you have commercial space, then you're actually advocating for probably a much higher density.
I don't know.
See, I mean, in other words, if there's a commercial space, the commercial space
Yes, yeah,
It's gonna need to be
I would
something
say
that's
that
supported by a community
I
with a much higher
want
density.
this to be the best it possibly can be.
It depends on where you locate the commercial density.
The town has other issues that we face. Like staffing and budgets and stuff like
Sure,
that, so
sure.
I wanna make sure that it's balanced between. You know. Feasibility for the town and, you know, making it something that's actually worth, I would agree with you on the first one, but I don't think it's necessarily the best option, but I don't know, I'm gonna keep it as vague as.
Well, the reason I'm
I wanna see what we
saying
can
that is
work.
because if the business comes in, they're not gonna. Come in unless they think it's feasible to
Yeah.
be there, and feasibility has a lot to do with density in terms of how we would do. So the more businesses that are there, the more dense they would have to be to support the business.
I know this is all a draft, but I mean, if you look, I mean, there's more density in other places connected to roads, you wouldn't have your commercial. Here, over here where it's not really that cluster-ish, you know, kind
Sure.
of stuff, I mean, I've seen this, the old trail. Rose, but you know, the stuff that would bring people in is what I was here like that. Doctor's office, the dentist, the hairdresser, the cleaner, you know, whatever, those exist anymore. It's those kind of things, and we'd have to have access to a road, not towards the bottom of it.
It's just the very first step in this process
Yeah.
for the east side of town, so. Just think about it some, and like Mr. Armstrong said, he's supposed to be very accessible. Every time I call him, he answers, so.
And keep in mind that he's doing this because there's savings here for him, he can do a better project that's more modern, if you want to call it that. And he gets to save some cost here, there and everywhere.
If I could say a couple more things, to that point, and also, because Old Trail was mentioned. Old Trail is something like 1,200 homes.
No, I know,
Like that. We don't want Old Trail here, that's not the right fit for, almost for the town, it's not the right fit who we think homeowners are. Who we think the homeowners would be for these places, we think something more organic. Is better, what that means, I don't yet know, but, we don't want to call down traditional, they call it traditional neighborhood development, which is, you know, it's great for more urban suburban areas that I still don't see here. Anyway, on the economics of it, that's a really good point, Mr. Bowling. The large lot subdivision, the by right, I'll call it 73 lots. Those large lots have value, that are a lot greater than a quarter or half acre lot. So if we're gonna trade, we're gonna downsize the lots. We need to upsize the number just to get the same amount of revenue. And if we're gonna add in other things that are good for the town, we need to upsize the number of lots a little bit more to pay for that too. That's just kind of how the economic scale works. On this, there's no magic number or magic ratio or anything like that. It's all very specific to whatever we might be talking about, but smaller clustered lots needs to be more just to make it feasible.
So any kind of amenities, one plan, allow.
Could be, have some theories on that are my own, the town and different people in the town, I think different. If we're building something in a town or in an area that already has a vital downtown area. My theory tends to be let's have fewer amenities in subdivision. So that those people, the town is the restaurants are the amenity, the park, farmers market, the ball fields, that's the amenity. The pool, community center, there's a lot in Scottsville. Now, if we were building in a place that didn't have very much around it, we would probably put more amenities in the community building itself. Those are usually private for that community, pool, clubhouse, whatever it might be. But since there's such good stuff here already, a lot of it is even underutilized. My opinion, and I'm looking for feedback here, but my opinion going into this is that it's better to encourage people to use the town's existing amenity in the town itself. Come to downtown and spend your money, go to the existing pool. But if y'all do differently, or if town people do differently, I don't care.
One of the things that I've heard, what we need in this town, a couple of things that I don't know if it's, would be any of these plans, but some sort of medical care or urgent care, facility, assisted living, retirement community. And then there's some people who just like that apartments rather than houses. So those are some of the things. I'm not sure if any of these look like single family homes. But I think some of those things that so people can stay here once they leave town, they can go to assisted living or retirement community. And also the medical care. I mean, we're hurting in medical care. We don't have, you have to go to hospitals, 30 miles away all the time, or 25 anyway. So those are some things that they have some help the community.
Thank you.
We appreciate you being here.
Thank you again.
Thank you so much for coming by, and I know you'll keep us posted on everything, and I know we'll ask you questions as they come up.
Yeah, that's good feedback to start. Thank you. We'll put some more work into it. We'll be back to you and
All right,
talk to the community about it.
thank you again. Okay, Harvard here.
So just to respect everyone's time, I'll hit the highlights, over items. So few of the, I'll update you that I received 2 quotes on the farmer's market, and I'll work on a 3rd one for electrical work. I'd like to, I'm speaking with Councilor Heisen, I'd like to move forward on a sign for the farmer's market, get something out of good faith on the farmer's market itself. Prior to the start date, 14th of April. I need to start working on repair for the columns. I'm a little bit behind on that, but I've had various moving parts that stayed productive. Beyond that, I'll have an update from today. I spoke with Bill Hudson, has been speaking with Blue Ridge area food bank, and I spoke with their coordinator staff this afternoon. So I'll move forward on 3 quotes to assist them, but they seem to be willing to help us with the pothole. So I'll thank Mr. Heisen for putting a bug in their ear, and it's, as they put it, they want to be they are part of the community and want to help out the community. So I'll follow up on the tasks I have there. Canal Basin, we're moving forward. I've gotten copies of the proprietor for Hogshead Barrel. They emailed me today. So they gave me some advice, but to get it fixed, we would have to look at a carpenter. They're going out of fashion, his business closed. So he gave us the last hogshead that existed he gave it a few years ago, but he closed in November. So I'll look over his notes and then kind of report back to you guys. Beyond that, I have a majority of the infographics. There's a last piece of about 8 of them out of almost 30 that are on site. So they're searching for that, but I'm trying to get a scope on that project and what it might cost and see what I can do with the current budget we have this year. But I'll keep moving forward on those capital projects for the farmers market now basin. And then the last piece, and it might be productive just to review it, but American Tower every year comes back to us with different proposals to adjust our fee structure. What I'd like to do, since I got some advice and some historical, what do they call it, institutional knowledge, is look over Mayor Bowers. He did a cost analysis when we originally applied to the original contract and see what would be worthwhile.
Barry Rowe did a good analysis, man. Barry's a real smart man, but I think he got some help on this one from some of the sophisticated sources of cost of money, present value of money versus future value. The last time they threw an offer at you, and I advise I'll be able to go back to that analysis and use that as a starting point and update it, plugging the figures if we can, and maybe get some additional advice from somebody who knows how to do that. So you can take a fair look at what they're really offering.
Some time ago, they came up with a plan, they wanted to give us like $140,000 and that would be it, and it would be their tower and.
Well, they sweetened it a little.
Yeah, so, like I
It
say,
was more than that.
we're all working on figuring out which is the best way to go with this thing, but, we don't have to make a decision next week, but we will. We'll have some more information next week.
They wouldn't be offering you anything, because they think it's in their total financial interest to do it.
You have anything else? So, Dan,
Yeah.
you're-
Mr. Mayor, a historical note to the town. For those of you who are looking or interested, it's the 160th anniversary this year of some key events of the Civil War. And today is the day 160 years ago where, after having actually been through Scottsville twice, General Sheridan, Cavalry General, left Scottsville. He had been in Charlottesville, through Scottsville on his way, and he's the decisive general in the Battle of Five Forks on April the 1st, and eventually leading to the fall of Richmond, and then the surrender at Appomattox. They're actually having events from April the 7th to April 13th, if you've never been over there, to see, remembering the 150th anniversary. And I do mention this, I know for Scottsville's part, it wasn't exactly the most exciting thing to have 10,000 cavalry come through Scottsville and burn the town to some level. But it was a significant moment as they came through on their way eventually to Appomattox. Thankfully, they won and we ended up a complete country again. But all that to say, 160 years ago today, they were leaving town and the town was very happy they left.
All right, if there's nothing further.
So probably next week, we're gonna vote on the farmer's market sign, we have to approve that.
I mean, it's budgeted, what I budgeted was 250 and it's 600,
Okay.
but, these are the things I bring up to you
Okay,
guys.
it's under 500, that's fine. Can we have the quotes and we can get going on some of those, some squares and.
I have a folder with them.
Because I think we need to get moving on building these things, repairing these things.
I have a folder with, most of them are 2 quotes. If you guys feel comfortable, but
I'm okay with 2 quotes.
okay. But I just want to check because one of the directions I was given to be very careful and have a lot of discretion with these capital
I
projects.
just like to get some things done, and that way the public market in session, and we got to work on it around then. You know, just trying to get some of this stuff going. Now that it's next year, ready.
Why don't I share those quotes with, and if you guys feel comfortable, I'd be more than happy to move forward with it.
All right, thank you, everybody. You got the money. I just read, it's long, it's like 500 some pages. I just read the biography of John Lewis.
Oh, really?
Really good. I was crying at the end when he died.
I've been talking a lot about Marcus Town, everybody that'll listen, so the one from.
Yeah.
We'll have a nice evening.
Oh, you did the same. I apologize. Storm drain.
I know. They might be like.
Like I said, I agree before, recruiting. There's no grants, this one is starting to get no grants out, stuff came on over projects. About $500, I just see like sort back.
It is a great thing, because a lot of trails.
Exactly. But that house thing can't be clear. I've seen a few who does grants. Dude, but there's a awareness. Yeah, I guess what I was expecting, that's why we're kind of community service. That's what makes me tired. I have to think of the perfume of sending out.
I just think it's really.
You know, like people. Because they like to, and elementary stuff.
I mean, you make a list of stuff that you need, with that up there, you move.
I don't know what else to do.
And people are probably the best.
Yeah.
My property.
I think they're good.
Yeah.
The, town and so. Yeah, up above the little houses that run, yeah.
We're having a lot of.
Whose house?
Yours.
She's super sweet though.
Rebecca's not sweet here.
So, I'm glad that I got a chance to talk to you real quick. I'm gonna get over here. I'm excited.
Mother computer stuff.
I'm coming right back, I promise.
I'm not responsible.
Okay. See you later.
Oh, any towards your
Maybe you can bust some more papers now.
Is anyone home? I'm asking the question because the room seems to be empty. Anyway, interesting side comments that I heard. I'm just waiting for Javier to come back and turn off the feed.
I really do get time to. I feel like one that I can get a conversation started. And just so, you don't want to drop the same problem. And it would not be the first contract we were able to.
Hello, Javier.
Oh,
Oh, Molly.
Gonna turn it off.
Yeah, I'm sorry, Nancy. I'm gonna try to.
I heard some very interesting things.
Yeah, did you hear me talking to Charlie?
I did.
You did. All right.